So what's up, y'all? My name's Greg.
And I'm T. And we are the Westbrooks.
No, that's not how we open the podcast up. That's our other intro.
Oh, shit. We ain't potted in a while. Let's try this again.
What do we say?
Oh.
Is that what we say, B?
We are the Westbrooks.
And then we say the GNT Go Get It podcast after that?
We are
the
Westbrooks.
And then welcome to the GNT Go Get It podcast.
You're wrong. No, I'm playing. You got it.
Okay.
All right. So what's up, y'all? I'm Greg.
And I'm T.
And we are the Westbrooks. And welcome to GNT Go Get It podcast, episode 10. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. This is like, we're now getting into like the rhythm. I feel like this is like a good space to be in as far as like getting ready for going into like, I don't know if this is season 2, but
technically I guess it's season 2. We've what is this? 4 years into our entrepreneurial journey, so still building up like momentum and consistency when it comes to dropping the podcast because we have so many things going on, but I'm proud of us.
Yeah. So, yeah, the goal for this year is consistency before we get on this world tour. Yeah, we're doing a world tour.
Okay, On the Run, part 3. No.
I mean, sure. I don't know about part 3. We need to, well.
They only did 2 parts.
Yeah, I know, but.
Whatever.
We're not J&B.
Okay, so this is neither here or there, but we went out to an event like 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. And somebody came up to Greg and was like, "Hey, Greg, you remember me? I know about Shot Black and stuff." And then he started walking around and was like, "Do you know the Westbrooks? Do you know the Westbrooks?" And when we first got in there, somebody was like, "Oh, what's up, Mr. and Mrs. Obama?" So it's like a running joke, I guess, like Nashville's next presidential couple. I like that. I like the sound of that. Don't be looking at me like you. Don't be looking at me like you ain't telling me you was gonna run for president.
I mean, dang, you can't be telling the people my business.
Oh damn. Okay. Pretend you didn't hear that.
I have a lot of aspirations. I feel like I was just telling B about one of my new ventures, but I feel like.
What venture? Which one? Oh, you can't tell them that either. Okay.
No, we're not telling the podcast yet. But you know what it is.
You know what it is. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I got a lot of stuff I want to accomplish. I feel like. Yeah, so I feel like I got a lot of aspirations that I want to accomplish. And it ain't nothing to it but to do it.
Period.
So I feel like, yeah, just stop limiting my thoughts and my feelings around whether or not it can be done and just do it. Because that's really like, I don't know. I guess that's what be holding people back from accomplishing stuff.
That's what we need to name this episode of the podcast.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it.
Yeah. Or stop holding yourself back. You know what I'm saying? Because I was just talking to somebody about this in particular when it comes to Shot Black City Tour. So, last year we did 6 cities. That was a big accomplishment for us because who the hell does a 6-city tour? Yeah, that's such a great point because I was just talking to somebody about that recently and like, I was saying, okay, so last year we did like a 6-city tour, right? We thought that was going big. So this year we're doing a 30-city tour and mind blown, right? But we can even go bigger than that. And I think a lot of times when we're like planning, we have to remind ourselves that anything is possible. The world is so big. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's like, we need to dive deep into that because that's beyond imposter syndrome. That's beyond imposter syndrome. I believe that's a key thing that as an entrepreneur, you should have a handle on your mindset. Because if you think small, you try to accomplish things that are small. And a lot of times,
and they might,
yeah,
you might not even realize that they're small.
right.
That's your big thinking.
Yeah, or okay, for example, this is unrelated to entrepreneurship, but there was like this post that was going viral a couple of weeks ago where this Black woman had put out on Twitter or something. She's a recruiter for a company. So she's like, I'm recruiting this girl, and she shortchanged herself. She lowballed herself, and she could have made this amount of money for her salary, but she only asked for this amount, so she lost out, right? So of course a lot of people were upset, and they were like, okay, if it's a Black girl and you're recruiting another Black girl, wouldn't you give her the tea or let her know? And in the ideal world, yes, but a lot of times people don't have time to hold your hand and babysit you. If you're thinking small, that starts with you. So I
thought that was an interesting point too. I didn't really look deep into it, but I was just thinking, like, I guess looking at it from the other side, a lot of the comments I saw were like people that are like, I don't necessarily want to say employee mindset, but they are employees. So they've been through like the hiring process where they went in to go get the job, and they were like, dang, I should have, maybe in their head they were thinking, I should have negotiated better. I should have done something different. But if you're looking at it from like, we're business owners, so it's like, yes, I would love to pay somebody $1 million an hour, right? But from the perspective of running your business, you have what you can afford to pay them. Mm-hmm. And then if, for instance, I think it was like 85,000 was what she asked for, and the salary like that they were offering was like 100 and some thousand. So it's like in that year time frame, it's $20,000. So as a business owner, maybe the hiring people get a bonus, or
I don't know about that.
I'm saying I don't really know what would happen, but obviously the money would go back into the business. I don't think that it would just be like the owner would be like, okay, I'm gonna take another 20,000 this year.
Yeah, it's like a pool. So from what I know, as far as just HR, there's a cap or a pool when it comes to salary. But going back to what you were saying, even about like negotiating and things like that, we both came from corporate America. So when I was in corporate America, I had to negotiate not only my salary, but vacation days, a signing bonus. I did it all. But when I first started, like in my early 20s, I didn't ask for shit. I did not ask for a thing.
Or didn't know you could.
I didn't know I could, So that's what we mean about thinking bigger than what your circumstances are or your reality, because you never know what you can get, what you can accomplish if you just think bigger. So.
All right, so I had to take a quick pit stop. This is a late Valentine's Day gift for my wife.
Oh, thank you. Can I see? It's strawberries, and they're all different kinds. Ooh, yeah. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
I was not expecting this, so I'm pleasantly surprised.
That's how we try to do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, that was our quick stop. But we were talking about,
just like thinking bigger. So,
yeah.
In general, what was I saying? Oh, in general, just like as an entrepreneur, as somebody in life, stop thinking small. Think beyond your circumstances and your reality, and you'll be all good.
Yeah. So, I think that's like,
I'm trying to mirror you. Should I sit back?
Nah, do what you gonna do.
Do I look weird sitting up? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and not to like make it sound like cliche, because it's like your thoughts are definitely not controlled, but they're guided by your circumstances. So it's like, I understand it's hard to think bigger when you can't fathom whatever. And so I think what you were talking about, like with like the 6-city tour versus like the 30-city tour, or even like no city tour, was like the steps. So like last year I remember thinking like, wow, this is a lot for the 6-city tour, right? And it's like once I got through like the obstacles, like it really wasn't that difficult. Like
right.
We pulled it off. We were able to get kind of a lot of the things done. And so for this year, it's been kind of the same thing. And it's like, I'm not gonna lie about like negative thoughts. Like stuff will creep in and get in your way of accomplishing based off of just how you're thinking about it. But it's like,
Yeah.
I think that's why it's good to have not only like my wife is my partner in business, but also like our team and other people around that like
believe in the vision
and rely on us to make things happen, because it's, I mean, we have a team now, we got bills to pay, we got payroll, we got just things to make happen. So I think that in that regard, I kind of understand when people be like, I'm doing this for my kids, and it's like, I don't have any kids yet, I got a dog, we got a dog,
Jet.
But same kind of thing, like I want to make this happen for my future kids, but not only that, like creating opportunities for us, but for our business owners that are in our different markets, and then just people in general that are going for their dreams. I think it's very admirable, and I want to continue to do it as an inspiration. So I think it's admirable, and I want to continue to do it and be an inspiration.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I admire you because y'all know the story. We took the leap of faith together. But neither one of us knew what we were getting into with this. And so I do want to give you your flowers because you've been a good leader as my husband and as my business partner, because we've had to get through some obstacles. And I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but when you were talking about just like having me as your partner. So today, I was having a rough day. I was feeling overwhelmed because we have so many projects. We got the tour coming up. We got multiple events and partnerships and sponsors. This and this. And I'm just trying to do stuff simple like do the dishes. You know what I'm saying? And be a wife. You know? And so I think I was just looking stressed. I don't know. But Greg was like, he just stopped and was like, what's wrong? And typically, and when you're in a relationship and you are in business together, a lot of arguments can come from business, as you know, like when you're in a relationship, because you can project things, you can we've had all type of issues that we've had to work through when it comes to communication and so forth, so on. So when he asked me, I could have been like, well, I'm stressed because, so many different things, and it's your fault. You did this to me. You know how like when people get pregnant, they be like, you did this to me. Was that like Baby Boy or something? I don't remember. But but instead I was just like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I wasn't expecting his response, but what he did was he stopped what he was doing. He came over to me, he grabbed my hands, and then he started speaking affirmations, like looking at me and saying, you're lit, you got this, everything's going to be okay, all of those things. And it was very reassuring for me. And then he was like, he grabbed my hands, he's like, let's take some deep breaths. So we took deep breaths. And these are all things that we do for ourselves, right? When we are trying to pick up our own spirits. But when you have a partner, that's the benefit of being able to lean on each other. So he stepped in a moment where I was feeling overwhelmed and was there for me. And then we prayed. We got on our knees and we prayed. And after that, the day it's been amazing. So I just wanted to piggyback off that and share that, because it's not always easy to be an entrepreneur, business owner, to work together. But if you have a certain mindset, then you can do it. You can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that really for any entrepreneur, it's good to have somebody. So like whether that is your business partner or maybe you have accountability buddies. But because we're married, we don't really have, we have some boundaries, but when it comes to like business, there's not necessarily boundaries around what we can discuss. I think Tony Gasson was talking about this the other day, but it's like I got business partners and I always have deeper conversations with my wife, right? Because it's like business will only go so deep, and we'll get into one of our topics about marriage being a business in a second. But yeah, like your business conversations can really only go so deep because business is related to like professionalism and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, yes, you see that of me, but then you see like the other side of it.
vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
You can't necessarily be vulnerable in business with people who you may not know that well,
right.
or you don't have that relationship. So
yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to cut you off.
No, you're good. It just made me think about, just vulnerability. Uh-oh. So another quick caveat. We've been, really T, and this is funny because I always mention my, I don't always mention, but I always mention to you, like, my grandmother on both sides were both English teachers. And so I've been kind of corrected my whole life when it comes to my grammar and dialect and how I pronounce words, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know really where it came from as far as a rebellion, but there is, I mean, you guys can hear it. Like, I don't really have a, I don't know, I hate the term like black and white sounding voice. But when I got to high school, I started to realize that not talking in slang wasn't cool.
So wait, you said you don't really have a, what kind of voice? Did you say a black voice?
Let me finish the story.
Well, I didn't understand that part. Oh.
Let me come back to it.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I was just trying to follow.
Okay, so growing up, I was a very much minority, right? I went to private school. It was like me and my brother and like 2 or 3 other black families. And my parents are both from cities, and they speak in their professional voices, but they were raised around like all black people. So you have like a certain drawl, a certain way that you say certain words. You know how like when you call somebody, you'd be like, you call somebody and you're trying to find out what they're whether they're black or white by their phone voice.
Oh.
And I really wasn't aware of all these things, but it made me think about, and I'll come back to why I was saying this. It made me think about when I was in high school, or really in middle school, was the first time that I was outside of my private school, and kids used to be like, "You sound like a white kid." Da, da, da. So I started to pay attention to using more slang to be more, I guess, culturally appropriate, to be accepted.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was like, yeah, I can't believe I get to go to school with these black kids, but they don't like me, right? They think I'm like this like weird alien or something.
Yeah.
And so I remember going through that, and so that's kind of matriculated, and I got a chance to go to Howard. And just since middle school, I've had a lot of opportunities to be in positions where I was around a lot of culturally diverse people, but not necessarily. I don't know what I'm saying. I guess basically it was like a matriculation of that, but it made me feel like I had to use slang to be cool, to fit in. Mm-hmm. And so lately she's been watching these videos on YouTube that talk about how you really just improving your language so that you don't use so many filler words. Filler words are, I don't really know why, but in black culture, filler words are, everybody uses them. Can I all the different stuff. Yeah, that's all I was gonna say. I was almost done.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just so I've just been cognizant of the fact that I use these words quite a bit now, and it's not becoming of me, and it's also not something that I want to put out into the world because I know better.
Yeah.
And it's levels to it in times for.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this. So the videos that he's referring to, I consider myself to be a lifelong learner. So although, we have our college degrees, and we're entrepreneurs, I'm always looking for opportunities for us to take a workshop, class, seminar. I'm watching videos, I'm reading books. And so this series of videos is specifically focused on how to speak and communicate as a leader. And so it's not just about like vernacular and those type of things. It's like he was saying, it's using filler words and conveying confidence as a leader. Because a lot of times when we use filler words, it makes us seem like we're unsure. But what Greg was saying is that, us being black kids that came up in different environments and had to adapt, We do code switching a little bit. You know, sometimes we speak in slang, or we have a little twang, or we go back and forth with our professional voices. And I can relate to what he's saying because, and I think people might wonder what Greg and I have in common. And a lot of the things that we have in common are similar life experiences, even though, so he grew up in predominantly white environments, but he still had to deal with adapting to the culture of being around Black people and those type of things. I went to all Black schools, but I transitioned from Chicago to Memphis, from north to south. And so when I got to the south, they were like, why are you sounding white? And I would be like, what? Like, how does this make sense? And like, Black and white don't have a particular voice, but I think what they were saying in retrospect, and they were just uninformed, was that why do you speak with such particular like vernacular, you know, versus slang? So anyway, back to like the filler words and stuff. I think that that's very insightful as far as like, as an entrepreneur, as a leader in general, that's something you should be focusing on.
Yeah.
But don't feel like you have to code switch and do all this and all that just to blend in. Even if, whatever color you are, don't let the environment of people that you're around dictate how you are as a person. Because at the end of the day, whether I want to say, and period, or, you know, like, I'm still me, I'm still a professional, I'm still well-spoken and cultured and all those things. So it's just funny the type of shit that we go through when we're younger, trying to like fit in and establish ourselves in the world. That shit's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm supposed to be working on my cussing. That is a crazy way of experiencing life. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think in general, like you were saying, for me, it's more so the filler words and then using words that don't mean anything. So like I just said, in general.
In general.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just a filler word. It makes me feel comfortable for filling that space with air. And I think for me, what makes me uncomfortable is the pause. And you're supposed to pause.
Yes.
When I need to pause, it just seems there's something missing, right? So just becoming more comfortable with that, and like you were saying, with the code switching, making sure that when I'm doing it, I'm just in the proper rooms to do it. Yeah. So, and did you have anything else to say about that? Side topic.
No, just what Greg just said about like the pause. Like, that's a good tip. So instead of saying I think, like, just pause and then add to it, because even though you might feel uncomfortable. Oh, the tip they said was say the pause in your head, or when you're at home alone, say pause and then keep talking, and then eventually you'll get into the habit of pausing in your head when you're talking to other people, and that'll help you say less filler words. So is a filler word. So we're trying to get over this shh. But what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say that was pretty much all I wanted to touch on with that. That was something I had been thinking about.
Okay.
You will notice as you watch the podcast moving forward, we'll do a better job, try to do a better job of not to use filler words to work on our. I mean, yeah, I want to be speaking in front of some giant crowds and some motivational type stuff. I mean, not necessarily maybe for you, but I just.
Well,
mean,
no.
Oh, I didn't know what that face meant.
No. We're definitely going to be speaking in front of giant crowds, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. That is where we will be. But what I'm saying, my face was that we just need to give ourselves some grace, because Greg and I, we're hard on ourselves and we're hard on each other to be great, magnificent, make an impact. But I've seen millionaires and billionaires speak like 2-year-olds. So I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, I think that also depends on how they made their money. Because if you an athlete, you might not necessarily.
I'm not talking about athletes. I'm talking about tech founders and anybody else that is not related to sports or music.
Okay.
Yeah. What else we got on the docket? So I had to develop my version of Sasha Fierce, and I was like, Tupac.
Oh, I forgot. Okay.
Tupac is my dance name from college, but it really embodies like my toughness and like, you know, I just feel it's my version of Sasha Fierce because public speaking is not an easy thing. So.
Side note: if you have sinus issues, don't move to Tennessee or Nashville at least. It's awful. Anyways,
you rub your nose. Okay.
Okay, Tupac.
What else you got?
No, so I wanted to talk about. I don't remember exactly how we worded it, but we were talking about marriage and business.
Mm-hmm.
So you set it up.
So I was watching Tony Gaskins, and Greg mentioned Tony Gaskins earlier in the episode, but we do watch Tony Gaskins on YouTube. We look at Kevin Samuels. We look at different people who talk about relationships and love, and in general, I like to get different perspectives, and we're always learning something when it comes to that. But Tony Gaskins did a video, and he was talking about if marriage is a business or not. And there are two arguments here, and I'm curious to know what Greg is going to say, but from his perspective, marriage is not a business, meaning the trending thing right now is like being married is a business. You're supposed to go get the bag together. You're supposed to approach things as like business partners. But he was saying that there's so much more to marriage than just the business aspect of it, that if you approach your marriage as a business, then you're ultimately going to fail. And I think that's an interesting perspective. So I wanted to know your thoughts on that, and then I'll close us out, I guess.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. You mentioned like failing, because I was just thinking about like a marriage is supposed to like never fail, right? It's supposed to be like till death do us part. Mm-hmm. And so from that perspective, if you're looking at that like a business, like the business could end at any time. People go out of business in the first 5 years. It's like a high percentage, or the first year is like a high percentage of people. But if you go into your marriage thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, I can just start a new business. And I think that, yeah, I hadn't really thought of it. I didn't know what I was going to say going in, but you saying that made me think of, I don't really think that approaching it as a business and that, in that perspective is a good thing, because like I said, it's not supposed to be something that is temporary or is until you make enough money or it's until, you know, you get to a certain level. Like it's literally supposed to be forever. So yeah, I don't really know what I was going to say, but I'm curious to see what your perspective is, and I can add some.
Well, so you were saying approaching marriage as if it were a business from a time, like a view from time, like you're not supposed to think of it from a temporary standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. There are some caveats for me though, because we're business partners, and I guess, well, what he was saying, and I agree, I'll tell you what I agree with and then what the caveat is. So I agree with marriage. Marriage should be approached from a standpoint of seriousness. Like business is very surface level, like we were talking about earlier. We have deeper conversations because we're married and business partners. So a lot of times if you approach your marriage as a business, you're going to end up with the short end of the stick, because you got to go deep. I'm talking about, if I can lay out deep.
What's that Big Sean song?
What?
It's called Deep.
Oh.
Let me think of it.
You
got drop in like the little clip right here.
Of Big Sean. But you got to go like into the trenches really to establish a strong foundation for a marriage. And it takes time, and it takes dedication. And yeah, so from that perspective, I understand his viewpoint. Now the caveat is, and you may disagree, but I would say, depending on what type of marriage you and your partner or spouse want, that determines if you approach it as a business or have business like, I don't know. That determines if you approach it as a business. For example, I cannot like Greg as a husband tomorrow because he didn't take out the trash. But we're business partners. So I can't just not show up to the event on Sunday because I'm mad at him on Saturday about some marriage stuff. So the caveat to me is like sometimes for me as a wife, the impact of what we're doing and the big picture of what we've accomplished and what we will accomplish is a benefit for me as a wife, because sometimes you can just be in your feelings. And you need to approach marriage as a business so that you can be logical about things with decision making. So you won't make rash decisions, or simply so that you can care about what you have and what you built, you know? So that's what I think.
Okay. So yeah, when I heard you saying that, you made me think about marriage. Technically is, I don't really know if a business, right? It is some type of government contract to where you can't just like throw it out and do whatever. And same thing with a business. Like if you dissolve a business, you still gotta like pay taxes and like make sure that you like finalize it.
Pay me.
But I like what you said about looking at it from a business, to think about things logically. It made me think about, obviously, Black Couples in Business, and that's an adventure that we'll be starting soon. But I think a lot of our audience that are married or in serious relationships that own businesses, I think, yeah, like the best advice from kind of what we've said is like you do have to, in some cases, I guess flip the coin, like whether or not in this situation your marriage comes first or the business comes first, right? So it's like, if things are really bad, you might need to cancel something to work on your marriage, and the business stuff might not have to take place. The other side of it is then your responsibility. So it's like you said, if you get mad at me on Saturday, you're going to be there on Sunday to make sure that we handle the business. Mm-hmm. And I think that there can be caveats with that, but I think in general, I wouldn't say like marriage is a business one-to-one, but I would say that it's very similar in regards of having specific contracts, and then I really lost my train of thought.
Marriage is you were saying like marriage is a business in the sense of like having a contract and responsibilities, but it's one-to-one or some shit.
Yeah, I don't really know what I was saying, but I'm just gonna go off the dome.
Okay.
No, but okay, so I feel like marriage is not one-to-one like a business, but it's similar in regards to the fact that it's a government contract and then something that you can't just like wiggle out of easily. Mm-hmm. And I think that people might not agree, but I think it should be a lot more difficult to get out of a business than a marriage. Not that like you shouldn't end marriages if there's like a real issue, but I think that just like making sure like people put the work in to make sure that this can work, whereas like business ideas can come and go. Like we've changed business names and slid some things to the side that we felt like weren't helping us pursue where we were trying to go with our business goals. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I was gonna say.
Okay. What?
No.
I ain't got nothing else about the topic.
So yeah, in general, I think, I don't know where I fit with like marriage being a business, but I think when you look at it from the perspective of how people say it, like, well, marriage is just a business, I ain't gonna do that. I don't think that's true.
Marriage is what you make it.
Right. And I think, like you were saying, it should be more than a business. You got to go deep. You got to go deeper than you would with your business partners. Mm-hmm. And I guess the last thing to say is, like, before you get married, take that seriously, that it's for life, so that you should be doing the proper work and counseling and all that kind of good stuff before you get to that point. So that once you're in your marriage, you can matriculate and know it's not going to be easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah. You can grow together. That's the most important thing, because there is no handbook on marriage or business. Well, there are a couple of textbooks on business, but
there's some handbooks on marriage and stuff
things.
too.
There's a couple things out there, but
yeah,
not for. I just say, since each marriage is based on you two as individual people and as a unit, then everything is custom to what you want to do. So, yeah.
Cool.
Want to close
I
this out?
agree. Yeah. So, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the G&T Go Get It podcast. What do we got coming up?
So we just announced the partnership that we have, this is a big deal. We just announced our residency or weekly market called the Wedge Weekly Market, right? I just said that wrong.
I don't know.
We just made the announcement for the Wedge Market, and it is a residency or weekly event for Black-owned businesses to showcase their products here in Nashville. So we're like, we've had this thought in our mind for probably a year and a half,
since the beginning.
2 years it's been in his mind since the beginning. But we've been able to execute this. So we have our weekly market in Nashville, and then we just announced the 30 city tour. We have some partnerships coming up and a couple of other events that we're excited about. So we've just been moving this year. That's pretty much the announcement I have.
Basically, if you're watching this, Google us, look out for all the things we got coming up. And I'm becoming more and more Googleable this year, so
that's our goal. This year, as far as goes, we just want to take over. We want y'all to get tired of seeing our faces on the news, on the TV, in the papers, on social media. Y'all gonna see us on the radio. On the radio. Stuff coming soon. So, yeah, more Greg and T Westbrook in 2022. Shop Black City Tour. Cool Girls Create, which is my brand for creative women. We got a lot of stuff coming up for that. So yeah, we just out here hustling, slinging freedom, slinging hope, dealing what else? Future. I'm just saying, yeah. Dream chasing.
Well, yeah, appreciate y'all checking in with us. We should put all of our social media stuff here. Yeah, all that good stuff. Follow us. Make sure you guys are tapping in. YouTube is gonna be coming strong this year because we've been slacking, but it's about time.
So yeah. Well, G&T signing out.
Peace.